raising kids, I have 2 daughters and a son. My oldest daughter, who I do my podcast with, Howie Mandel does stuff. She almost killed me. Going through from 14 to 21 was a fucking nightmare, and especially in Hollywood, it was a nightmare. My daughter, this is Jacqueline, the one, she's married now with 2 kids, but when she was 17 or 16 in high school, that they made like 3 or 4 movies about her friends. One being Alpha Dog. I don't know if you ever saw that one with Justin Timberlake, where the guy killed the other kid because he owed him drug money. Those were the people that went to school and were my daughter was around. I can't tell you how many times I came home and was out at 2 a.m. Breaking into a house and physically pulling her out of it was just a crazy time. Crazy.
Do you think that's the thing that people don't see is the human side of people. They see the star, they see the guy with the money, they see all that stuff, and that's all. And a lot of times they don't see the human side that we kind of keep back here. And I noticed on a level, and I'm assuming that it's really hard for your kids because they're growing up in dad's shadow, and we don't think that's a big deal, but the other kids, it's a lot. Plus money. If I had some money, I realized.
I don't think that was a problem. You think that was a problem for your kids?
Well, yeah, I think. I definitely spoiled them. When my kid, the first time I heard them say, "Can you tell the cleaning lady to?" I didn't grow up with cleaning ladies. I grew up very blue collar. Like, both my parents were out of World War II, and so I was like, "What did you just? What are you talking about, Regina?" She's like, "Yeah, tell her not to fold the clothes and put it in the right." I'm like, "Oh my God!" But we created this monster. But I grew up they grew up in an area where everyone did very well, and there was a lot of drug issues. There was a lot of issues, and part of me thinks, how do they do better than their parents? And that's a pressure. How do they walk in their parents' shoes? How do they become their own individual rather than like, oh, you're so and so's kid or you're so and so? That's what mine went through. I'm not saying that's what yours went through.
Listen, there is a bit of that, but more importantly, my wife and I are both come from lower middle class. I grew up in an apartment. I shared a room with my brother. She didn't come from money either. We did good. And yes, the kids are spoiled. And I have some funny stories about my kids being spoiled. But more importantly, I thought that I would grow up, have children, and teach them about life. But what has happened is I grew up, had children, and they teach me about life. They're like, I didn't realize the pressure. I didn't have a friend in the world as a kid. Everything I've ever been punished for, expelled for, gotten in trouble for is what I end up getting paid for in my career.
Yep.
And especially being a girl, girls are really mean. And it's really hard for them to fit in. It's really hard for them to, it was never for me about looks or fashion or whatever. So the pressures and just to be with the right group or just to be accepted and just to be it's amazing that anybody really survives that. So, this adage of shit happens, a lot of shit happens, and they're not equipped. They being humans, we are not equipped at 15 and 16, and especially, I think it's especially harder being a girl. I grew up with a brother. I didn't know anything about girls, but I think that being everything that I encountered is magnified just by being female. It's more dangerous being a female. It's just, it just is. I don't know if I'm saying anything that is
no, you're right.
Wrong. It's just more dangerous. It's just, you're more of a target. You're more expected of you. There is more, if you're a big fat guy, you'll probably get chosen to be on the football team and be the center. If you're an overweight girl, I think life is going to be harder for you. And
Right.
not even in your own mind, but just socially, it's just going to be harder for you. Um,
No, you're right.
and there seems to be more of a need for females to have acceptance. And this is weird for somebody to say, like you and I entered show business and have a need to have people we don't give a about or never saw or never will meet like us. And
Right.
that's kind of magnified when you're just a girl in your high school or and I didn't understand. I didn't know how to deal with it, and I ended up doing stupid shit. Like I would monitor her, and I knew she was around these kids, right? Uh,
Yeah.
one day I went into her. I've told this story before, but I went into her room because I was always worried that she was into the wrong. And I found
Yeah.
a film, a 35 millimeter, a little film canister filled with pot, and like I freaked. And so I drove to the school, and I found out. I said, "What class is Jackie in?" And she was, and they said she was doing math. And I ran past the desk, and the people were going, "Miss Mandel, you can't." And that I just ran up the stairs, ran down the hall. I found her classroom. I looked; they're all got their heads buried in their desks. They're doing a test. I opened the door and and I went, "Jackie, come here." And she goes, "What are you doing, Dad? What are you doing? What do you do?" I said, "Come here." And she comes out of her desk. She's humiliated publicly. I'm not that helpful. And I grab her arm and I say, "You're coming with me." And I take her down the hall, down the stairs, through the parking lot, into the car. She goes, "What the hell are you doing, Dad? What the hell?" I go, "You will see. You will see, young lady." And I take her I get her to the house. She goes, "This is the most humiliating day of my life." I go, "You're going to have to answer a question." And she goes, "What's the question?" I take her into her room and I pull out the canister. I open the canister. I hand it to her and I go, "What is this? What the fuck is this?" She said, "That's my fish food." And I went, "Oh, okay." So I drove her back to the school, and she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. But I just wanted it almost killed me. I'm such an idiot.
No, I've embarrassed myself multiple times, and I found too the hardest part is when they start dating.
It's funny you should say that because when boys came over, I said, "You can't close the door." And she didn't listen to me, and she closed the door. So I went and got my tools, and I got a I took the door off, and
You
she didn't
did.
have a door for 6 months. I removed the door from her room. She had no fucking door on her room.
We did that. My wife does that. My wife was like, "That's it. The thing." My wife would take out the hinges, pull the door down, bring him downstairs. That's it. Now, we asked you multiple times. You can't listen. Now you don't have a door. And yeah, she spent the whole summer without the door. I love it.
So did mine.
And
Is
that's
this the oldest one now?
yes, yes.
Me
She's
too. It's the oldest one.
the
My
oldest.
younger one, easier, or knew how to hide it more from me.
Oh yeah,
You know.
our middle one's the hider, and the younger one is the same way, but just a little goofier with her
Well,
approach. So and we get along well.
my middle one is a boy, and we used to take the doors off our daughters and put 3 doors because hopefully he would get laid and I wouldn't hear anything. I did have a double standard, but my 2 girls are married and with kids. My son, who is 35 now, has I tell everybody a model rescue service. He takes in wounded models and nurses them back to health, and then releases them out into the wild before they can I vicariously live through his Instagram.